Welcome to KjonnyMo Radio. How's that mean? KFJMO. In this case, part nighttime radio. Normally it's just plain old nighttime radio. That's when I decided to turn the picture off and just sort of let the sound and whatever images happen to be floating around in the shadows float. And the reason I can make this, I'm so happy right now at the moment. The reason I can, it's not just the drugs that I took for the anti-methadone thing, which Subutex does give you, I admit, kind of a little bit of a pleasant feeling, but not like euphoria. I ain't telling you you'll get some. I know it's sold on the street. I don't really get why anybody would want to get it, but okay, it doesn't have any, it has a narcotic blocker in it, so therefore, hi Saturday Cat. Therefore, I can't take any pain pills if I go to the dentist and they hit a bad nerve. I have to rely on this thing. So, I mean, it has hit plenty of bad nerves. So, I'm not complaining that it makes me feel a little bit better, and it gives me some energy, because I need it. I've been up the last 4 or 5 days with these goats, and the baby about died this morning. So in some ways, I was kicking myself, thinking, why did I put these videos up the last few days of these goats? And I see there's been a bunch of comments, and I'm grateful for them, but I couldn't bear to look at them and I'll look at them this week. I couldn't bear to look at them, not because they're there, but because if I had lost her, and all the kind people writing things. So what happened was that I made a stupid mistake. I didn't fasten her door well enough, and she's living in the bottom part of our pretty large iguana cage, because the iguana never goes to the floor, and we needed a space where she'd be safe among the parrots in the kitchen. And all this is stuff I probably should have prepared for, right? Like 6 months, because it takes about that long for goat babies to be born, or kids. But I didn't think of it. But even though we had 3 bottle babies before, and they had to come from somewhere, but what happened was, after the first goat had triplets, and they didn't make it, and then Peaches, the second goat, the horns, she had her babies in the 4, and the one, their kids, they're really called kids, she had her kids, and, because they call it kidding when they had them, when she kidded, then she, lost the one sometime, and, it was around January 8th or so, and in December, I think I mentioned I had COVID, not as bad as it could have been, because I did get vaccinated, especially with all my physical problems. But nonetheless, I probably would have been vaccinated anyway, because I just used to being. I ain't afraid of needles. How's that? So the point is that I didn't care, and I believed. I'm not saying the government's right about most things, but I'm saying, well, maybe they might be right about this, and I ain't taking no chances. So the point is that, or the reality of it is that yes, I got vaccinated, and I think it made it less intense. Nonetheless, it was still a real bad drag. So when these goats were born, I was just kind of beginning to recover from that, and so I didn't really. I even though my brother had warned me, because he happened to be here, he's not here often, but said that Peaches was about ready to have her babies. Now I don't know how he knew that. And maybe I mentioned that before, but nonetheless, she had them a few weeks ago, and the brown and white goat, she looked the strongest and the biggest, and so it was a big surprise. Well, first of all, I made the mistake by not having milk replacement formula around in case there were any bottle babies, because two goats being pregnant, chances are there might be a bottle baby or two. Now, I don't have much experience with raising goats. I have much more experience feeding baby parrots, because I've worked in a place like that, and I've had them on my own a few times. So, but I did have that experience years ago, 15 years ago, with these 3 bottle babies. Ouch. Saturday's got her long claws. And I should have been more aware of it, but I wasn't. So, oh yeah, by the way, yeah, what am I saying? Okay, yes, I should have been more aware of that, and I wasn't, so that's a mistake. So, therefore, but the 3 seem to be doing really well. Okay, then my friend that works here, I think I mentioned this, or maybe I didn't. He helps me out right now, especially with the animals, and the house clearing and things. So he found, and this is cool when you have somebody that's really solid working with you, or for you, or whatever you want to put it, with us. We're working together. he found this baby by the wall, which is not close but not far from the goat barn, but far enough away. It's across a creek. And it meant that she'd stayed there all night long because the other two were in the barn. And she brought her back. She seemed to be okay, but I think I mentioned this. So I don't care. And she tried to get to the bottle, her mom's, to feed off her mom. And the other sister ran her off. So then Steve let her, pushed her away, and then let her suckle on it. And then anyway, it seemed weird. So he brought her upstairs. And then that Friday, everybody was thinking, okay, she's going to die or she might not. So it was really intense Friday. And then I tried making a vet appointment. And they said, oh, they're swamped. But then, actually, I did have a vet appointment, but they didn't bother telling me I had a vet appointment. So luckily, I happened to call them around the time I supposedly had a vet appointment, or from their point of view. And then still, they didn't know until somebody called me back and said, well, aren't you going to come in? I know nothing about it, but I wanted to. So anyway, at that point, it was up and down Friday. And it's about 1:30. Then I bring her in. And the vet says, oh, she's in terrible shape. Okay, so can you do anything for her? We'll try. We'll give her some feed. So, they run this tube down her into her stomach and everything. And then she says, come back in a couple hours. And then I come back, and the goat is a different goat. Totally seems, wow, she's on her own feet. Everybody's a lot happier because her sugar level was way down. It didn't look good, okay, before. But then it looked pretty damn good. And everybody's kind of smiling, getting toward the end of Friday, and they're happy because they get the weekend off, and I'm happy, and Steve's happy, and everybody's pretty damn happy about all this. Get a pizza and everything, take it home. Oh, it looks like a lovely evening. And it actually was that Friday evening. And then Saturday, Saturday cats, Saturday cats in front of me. Saturday day, yesterday, it worked out okay. She's getting better. I think I forgot when I did that video, but she was walking around the house. Maybe it was last night. And that looked really cool. Okay, it was really pretty good. It was then, yeah. Okay, then I'm really, really tired, and I've come with the bird. I had let the birds are out perching, but she's in her space, and they're okay. But then I went into the bathroom to clean up the syringe. The syringe for feeding, and I was going to put a little Vaseline on it to help it kind of go down first. This is a very weird what I'm talking, but it's fact. Okay, and I'll just be straight up about it. Yes, I learned that trick as a junkie. Yes, you put a little bit of your own earwax on it, or Vaseline on an old, because when the syringes get older, they're hard to run down. Okay, but that is not me anymore, but I still know the trick. And I was having trouble pushing it down into her, her name is Coco, by the way. We call her into Coco's, you know, into her. I had trouble just because sometimes I had to do this as it's a two-man job, but I've had to do it one person. Okay, so I was in there and I was so tired I fell asleep for a few hours on the floor. I get up, I wake up finally, the cat's with me and it's nice and warm and everything, and it's just like, oh, I got some sleep on even if it's on the floor. Okay, then I hear Coco crying, and I'm thinking, oh, she's crying because she wants to eat. Yeah, that's great. I'll be there in a minute, Coco. Okay, I get there, and before that I was thinking, I've done a lot of stupid, dumb, neglectful things with my animals over the years. From the time I was about 6 or 7, I lifted some guinea pigs up, and the Bedlington Terrier we had shook them to death, and my dad said, well, that's what happens when you leave your pets outside. You're their space. I should have remembered that, because that's what happened here. She got through the door, I didn't have it latched properly. The birds were still out, and one of them, Cherie, who is normally in her place cage, in a box, because it's easier to, at the moment, for them to be kind of in their space, in this nest box type thing. But so for days and months she's been in there. Well, she picked the last couple of days to decide to come back out of it. So the goat, Coco, is wandering around the kitchen, innocent little 3-week-old animal, but gets too near where Cherie considers it her nesting area, under a cage. And when I go in there, I hear the goat yelling, but it ain't about food. It's about being attacked by this damn bird. And it's my fault, totally my fault, for not making sure the door was latched, for being maybe too tired, for not making sure Cherie was in her space, in her, for whatever. But I was only going in the bathroom for a couple minutes to do this thing to feed her. Okay? That was my excuse, my great excuse. But so I'm not going to just lock everybody up for 2 minutes. And even the goat, I was going to get Coco out. So whatever, it was still neglectful. But I didn't. Anyway, this thing happened, and Cherie had gotten her a little bit above the eye, and then and the anus area, because it's soft tissue. They know what to go for. Birds and whatever. You know, Nature is pretty evil. I mean, it's the way it is. I realize it. But it is a violent world out there. Truly violent. And insects and birds and people, we all know where to go for the softest parts to really get to somebody or something or some animal. And that's what she done. But luckily I got there in time, and it was only superficial wounds. But still, it was hellacious trauma. So again, just go from being freezing outside all night long to this trauma of this bird, and going and getting really well and looking around, and smiling and going around the house, to a situation where she's going through this trauma again. Because her head was over, was nodding over, and I was in no mood to film any of this stuff. But her head was crooked, and she's just so like she was Friday before we took her to the vet. It was so discouraging and so horrible, And I know people deal with this all the time, but this was completely unavoidable, I think, and because she was on the mend. So anyway, and plus the fact, before that, on that night, Saturday night, I had this feeding tube, and it came off in her throat. So I really had to keep my cool because the syringe broke off, and because I was pretty upset at that, and get her mouth open and then reach down with my fingers, and thank God it hadn't gone down. Thank God she was small, and the tube hadn't gone far enough away where I couldn't get to it with my fingers. Otherwise, I would have had to have some kind of clamps and a flashlight looking down there, and somebody else holding the thing open, and maybe even been sort of that tech to be able to do it the right way. But I had to take my chances if I had all that stuff around. But I'm only one person with two hands, because Rosalie is still gone another week. I could have tried to call Steve, but he doesn't live far. But a lot of times people don't answer their phone at 3 or 4 in the morning. So anyway, so luckily, thank God, I got that tube out. So that's one thing she goes through. And then she has to deal with this bird, hours later. And it's just, this goat's been through so much. Well, she's rejected by her mother, freezing out there. She's not getting enough milk, even though she's the biggest one. Turns out she's kind of like the odd person out, odd goat out, and as they put it. And so she's had a lot of hell in just 3 weeks in her life. But, okay, so this is what's going on. My neighbor fortunately was around, and she came over, and she helped me get the right, well, at first I got 60 cc's. That's a large syringe full of food into her, and that helped a little bit, I think. But still, she didn't make much movements. And then Linda came over, my friend, and then we figured it out a little bit more, how I could, she looked online, because Coco's sugar level was way down, what they call 19. Well, she was 19, and I think that the average should be like 74, her sugar level, so it was enough to kill her at the vet, but they were able to raise it, and all kinds of problems. But, so we slowly, this is the good news, slowly but surely through the afternoon, I never use that word, slowly but surely, okay, or that phrase, okay, so we're pushing through the afternoon into evening, and Linda comes back again at 6:30, and it's a little better, and then we figure out a magic thing with this syringe, because it's really hard to get my fingers up there and push it down, and maybe I have a big mouth, but I don't have such huge hands, and it's kind of hard to reach up there because you got 60 cc's of fluid in there. So we took, then by something happened, and the plunger came out, and then the cool thing is, it just went down nice and slow down the tube, down from the syringe into the tube into her. So it made it much simpler for me to deal with alone, feeding her, and in this way. So she seemed better, and then but still dodgy and better, and then dodgy. But okay, through the whole evening though, she finally got better, and now she's able to walk from where I feed her back into her cage, and it's cold tonight where we are, at least for our standards, not for the Midwest, but for the Pacific Northwest. It's cold, but hey, it gets cold in New Orleans too. I remember it was 0 degrees one Christmas Eve in 1983. Damn cold. Anyway, and the breeze and the wind off that river, it was real cold. But here it's cold. It's like in its 20s, but the other goats, the other two babies and Peaches are down in the goat barn. They're locked in. That's another thing that I made a big mistake about. I mean, I should have thought, it's obvious. There's big goats around, teeny tiny little babies. If they're born, they really shouldn't hang together. Not because of intent, but when the goats see food, they're going to just go for it. They trample me. I mean, one of them, Peach's son that I had to euthanize about 18 months ago, he actually knocked me down, and I saw stars. For real, just like the cartoons. And I probably said that in this, but again, forgive me for repeating at times. The thing is that the goat now, Coco, it's been a real struggle, but thank God, and that to me, is like, I mean, heaven is like right there in front of us when this kind of thing happens. Now, hell is also there, but when you're around something that's got such a will to live, like this baby goat must have, I mean, it is encouraging. It's encouraging for me with all my stupid physical bullshit I gotta deal with. And I ain't complaining, it's just facts. Oh, by the way, apparently, and Rosalie, we had a big, no, I ain't complaining about this either, but a big fat vet bill on Friday. But our vet, once we pay the bill, she doesn't quit. She's been helping me out through the whole weekend. But anyway, it was a fat vet bill, and it ain't stopping this tomorrow. I gotta go. So Rosalie and I, we talked about this, and she thought, well, maybe it's time to put a PayPal, I guess what they call it, thing on my stuff. So she's kind of redecorated the channel a little bit. I think there's a picture of RL and I from 1985 in New Orleans, in the Ninth Ward there. I don't know. It seems like part of the picture, but maybe you can extend it. But the picture I had lost, but I found it online. It's at the University of Kansas City, or University of, yeah, maybe that's it, Kansas City, because there's two of them, Kansas City, Missouri, Kansas City, Kansas. But if you want a copy of that picture, it's a pretty cool picture. You can go online to that place, University of Kansas, and I'll try to put the link in for that sometime. But it was our first promo picture, and my name is Jon Beckley Morris. Those are my middle names, but they named me a crazy long ass name. Full name is Jonathan Beckley Morris Nirenberg. Now Nirenberg I kind of didn't use that much because well, for one thing, especially in Europe, because it sounds too much like European. And if you're an American, and that you're playing in a blues band there, or you are there for gigs, they just want to pay you more. And for practical purposes, I did that. And secondly, that also implies I'm a mixed race, or whatever you want to call it, of Presbyterian and the Jewish side. Now, the Jewish side, with all due respect, they were some pretty bad time cutthroats. And so I kind of admired Dad's uncle, or brothers. And so I related much more, and we all, the Presbyterian side, because my grandparents local were there, and I never met my other grandparents, and But, nonetheless, I had that culture in me from the Ukraine, and I don't want to hide that. So there's something about the PayPal account that says something about that they want your legal name and then Jon Beckley Morris. And certainly, my those are my names, and I'm proud of those Beckley Morris because it comes from my mom's side of the family, and Beckley was my grandfather's name, and then Lorenzo. Let's see, Uncle Lorenzo Beckley was a railroad engineer, my great uncle, and I'll get back into that. I got a newspaper thing or one of those things from the past, And Uncle Lorenzo his train went off into the water, but he saved a bunch of people because that's the only thing that went into the water was his engine back in the 1880s. So I have a railroading past from that. My great grandfather was an engineer, and he rode a train from Nebraska and through the Missouri Valley into Oklahoma, and I'm proud of my other past too. But it's just that they, like I said, there was a lot of friction in our family. My dad's brothers were always hitting him up for money for they had a photography business. And anyway, it's just a bunch of bullshit. And then when he died, they didn't help out at all. But so there's always these problems in families, and so for me, I went to a Episcopalian school for 4 years. I just totally related. I did not relate, with all due respect, to Jewish faith, and I have total respect. A lot of something to do with being Jewish or Muslim or a Zay or whatever. It has nothing to do with anything. They're just labels. I like people if I like people. If I don't like somebody, I don't. And, it's the way it is or whatever. If I don't want to be around somebody, fine. All these stupid labels. All they've done is cause trouble, mostly. But anyway, I want to just say that, thankfully, thank God in heaven, as my sweet Saturday is here. Now, Saturday, Kat's going to have some thyroid medicine. And that's going to be twice a day for the rest of her life. And she doesn't like it much. It goes on underneath her ear. And these people left her here, and she showed up when we moved in here, and showed up after our dogs unfortunately died. Unfortunately, they were wonderful dogs. They were 2 rescue dogs, and they died within a few months of each other after we had them for 7 years. And now Saturday's here. She showed up a couple months after they left the planet, and but here in spirit. But anyway, heaven is truly here. I mean, it's really there how can it not be? I remember, in Colorado, doing this, I spent one summer there in 79 at my sister's place, and where she had this place was, you could see the mountains were just, it was like an acid trip or a mescaline trip in the morning, and then it was different colors at night, the way the sun reflected off the mountains, and it's that way maybe everywhere for a sunset, but they were just, somehow, heaven is here, for sure, and like I said, hell too, but seeing this goat fight for her life like this, and seeing the people around her help her fight for her life, well, to me, that's a piece of heaven. And the fact that I truly didn't think she was going to make it in the morning to the vet, but I think that she really will now. And I'll feed her one more time in a few hours. But I'm so grateful for this. And I just wanted to make this video and just say something about that. And I really appreciate everybody's support. I'm very grateful, and I never thought it would really be like that. I didn't have any idea, because I started this thing and then stopped it. And I guess maybe I'll set up another channel for animals actually, but right now, I'm still gonna put the animals on this one too. By the way, if anybody wants to play this, I'm an E. feel like. Except one thing, he never stayed in the 12-bar blues pattern. So I wonder if I could I better break that pattern. Down by the riverside, I like to take a ride. Driving down by the riverside, come to the ferry, St. Francisville. After leaving death row in Angola, see a friend of mine bound to die. See a friend of mine bound to die. After that, you take a ride. Need to take a ride. Wash some of that out of my mind. Find the ferry down at the riverside. Head to town, find a boarding house. Stay with my partner the night before heading back to New Orleans. Fine old St. Francisville, such a pretty place. Right there in Angola prison, make no mistake. Gonna see friend on death row, kinda cool dude really, I'd say so. Bound to die, Tom's bound to die. Thomas Lee Ward was his name. Thomas Lee Ward was his name. Bound to die, but before that could say hi. Could say hi, just to pretend it was one kind of normal, one kind of normal day. Yeah, that was kind of came to my mind. That was an Earl groove, you know, because many years ago I got involved after I watched Sister Helen Prejean from Dead Man Walking. She way before this, she did a symposium at the University of New Orleans, and I was living there, of course, with the time, and she just total anti-death penalty person, and there was a DA there and another person, a lawyer, but she destroyed the DA's anything to do with the pro-death penalty people. You know, she just tore them apart. And I had mixed feelings about the death penalty. I'm totally against them. I still am. I am, I suppose. But the thing is, there's a lot of, there's a whole lot of stuff I don't even want to go into about it. The people that are poor get it. The people that have money, they can buy their way out a lot of times. I know. And whatever, it's just a racist system. But the thing is that I signed some papers, and I didn't even know I was signing. I said, yeah, I really admire your work. I went on a tour the next day, and Burnside was kind of mad because we were supposed to go to England, and we didn't have work permits for that. And I had other things on my mind, is what I'm saying. I went to this thing because a friend of mine set it up. But I signed some papers and whatever. Well, she called me the next morning, and our train didn't leave till that night, which is okay. Cool, great talking to her, wonderful. And said, I'd like you to help maybe do some things with us. And sure, but, yeah, call me when I get back up, because we were going to the Midwest, the East Coast, and overseas for a few gigs. And, so I didn't really think much about it, too much, except how grateful. I had read about her in the papers, when I first moved to New Orleans, and they had just brought back the electric chair, and it was pretty spooky. I thought this whole thing of frying people just too bizarre. But anyway, so I signed these papers, and didn't forget about them, All right, so then, let's see, it was 3 years later. I didn't hear anything about this. 3 years later, I was in Holland with another man I worked with after RL. We took a little break between our work, but that's another story. But anyway, I'm working with Eddie Guitar Burns from Detroit, and I did a lot of gigs with him in Europe. So I believe it was spring '88, and I get my mail forwarded to me from New Orleans, and there's a letter, and it goes, "Your pen pal on death row is Thomas Lee Ward." What? Okay. How did this letter find me in some little place in northern Holland? I mean, what in the world? I don't remember. And I remember, that symposium, that thing, Helen Prejean. So anyway, I get back home to New Orleans, and a friend of mine, an El Salvadorian woman, she picks me up at the airport. A very interesting person, Reina Guzman, who herself has a crazy story of. She worked with the rebels there. She had lots of trouble, and her boyfriend got killed by the government. But that's another story. Anyway, Raina picks me up at the airport. Come home, there's my mail and stuff, and there's this letter from Thomas Lee Ward from death row at Angola. And I thought, wow. And he goes, like yourself, I'm from Virginia. He is from Petersburg. I'm from Northern Virginia, but nonetheless, it's still the same state. And just sounded like this really cool guy. mean, he didn't sound like a stone cold killer or anything. He just like a really cool person. So I thought, sure, I'll write to this guy. And Raina, who's been through so much hell herself in El Salvador, and I are reading this thing, and it's kind of like, is that another piece of heaven too? Is God saying, or whatever you want to call it? Am I obliged to contact this person? No, it's just what it is. I don't know if heaven or hell or whatever, but it's just, yeah, I want to talk to this guy. Sure enough, and I wrote him and I gave him my phone number because had to call collect. They had to call collect. And if anybody who's listening to this doesn't know what that is, it means that you would, or can you still do it? You call the operator and you say, I'd like to make a collect call to whatever, or I'd like to make a person-to-person call, or a station-to-station call, and that would, and then also we had to, in the not so far back times, and they still do it, of course, use the telegrams, a lot. But anyway, it sure is a different world. But the thing is that, yeah, I told Tom, sure, I'd like to come up there and visit him. But then, before that happened, I read a nasty story in the papers in New Orleans where somebody got killed that I knew, and not well, but he was a neighbor of a friend of mine and from New Orleans who was stayed sometimes in not too far away in Mississippi, a place called Wayland. And he had this friend. The guy was a little bit odd. He was a teacher, heavy duty into porno, which freaked me out. Honestly, that's not my thing. And I guess we went over there one night and we were just watching a little bit of stuff with him, and he let me call my girlfriend in Holland on his phone, so that was pretty cool. And I think Matt had just gotten some Delana from somebody he shouldn't have gotten it from. So we were feeling pretty good. But anyway, this porno thing freaks me out. And the reason I bring it up is because I think that had something to do with his murder. So if his head is, caved in, this place in a sleazy motel in Slidell, and I'm thinking this got to do with something. He met somebody and they're doing this creepy stuff. And then, okay, so 4 people got busted for this crime. It turned out to be only the one person that did it and stole Billy's car. His name was Billy, and I called Matt. I said, "Is this the same? Is this the same person? Is it your neighbor?" And he goes, "Yeah, that's right." So the guy was a normal person on one hand, school teacher, whatever, and then this other weird kind of dark part of him, and I just have to think that had something to do with this. Somebody probably. Who knows what the situation was? I don't know, but I know that they killed him in a bad way, and or the guy did. They had to let the other guys off, and I have no idea what happened to this person that actually killed him. But so that I read about that, and you found out about that before I visited Tom on death row, and I had some kind of mixed feelings about the whole thing a little bit, because, anyway, so the woman picks me up. Takes me there. It's a paralegal, a Mennonite, that had come down from Canada to work in the States, and in our crazy they for the missionary work that they do, they have to do a missionary thing for a year, and the United States, God knows how many missionaries we need here, help clean up the place. But anyway, she was one of them, a really cool lady, and I told her about this. I said, it's just kind of strange. I want to see Thomas D. Worrell and Death Rule, but this guy that I actually met and talked to, and I think we had some food maybe at his house, and he let me call him on the phone. He seemed like a nice person, I mean, all in all, everybody's got different bizarre things about them, but but however I personally feel about that, I mean, I'm no prude. It's just certain things go too far for me, and nonetheless, he didn't deserve to have his head bashed in with a fucking lamp in a motel room in Slidell. And I'm going to visit a guy who is accused of and was busted for killing the common law husband of his ex-wife. So, a lot of things about that, a lot of family stuff. Tom said that I know he was high on coke and drinking whiskey and rode the bus from Los Angeles to New Orleans, and he said it was to get his kids back. But anyway, whatever. The thing is, he was finally executed in 1996 for this thing. But at that time, it was 1988, and so, and they changed it from electric chair to a lethal injection. So the thing is that, however I personally felt, I had to put that aside, and meet Thomas, because I said I was going to do it, and I'm riding up there, and well, I went there and I met him, and I just really liked him a whole lot, and I realized, okay, people can do these crazy things, and if he hadn't been maybe high on coke and drinking a lot and on the bus, and it hadn't been so hot, it was a hot summer, day and in the evening, and he actually gave himself up to the cops, when they came. But the thing is that things about him in the past, I know Thomas had a lot very strange dude himself, because he could be really violent, and he could be whatever in his past. He admitted that, but then he gets cleaned up, on that, because there's no drugs, there's no alcohol. It's sort of a different thing, and then they're there for years and years, like a warehoused, and then they put them down, So I know that doesn't excuse the crime, but there's something really weird about that. They're not the same person. So anyway, I didn't even mean to have such a long video and to talk about any of this stuff. But there it is. And I don't understand even... Let's see, that's totally wrong. Hey, what are you doing there? Hey now, what are you doing up there? I'm coming to get you, and that's for sure. It won't be long. No, it won't be long now. It won't be long. It won't be long right now. Last thing I was in the That little snatch was in G. I'm going to try a couple more verses in A if you want to play. Try it again. Call yourself a rattlesnake, think that you're on the tape. Oh, you call yourself a rattlesnake, think that you're on the tape. You don't really know who you're talking to. No, you don't. Now what's really getting to me? Well, you know what's really getting to me. All your clowning, all your clowning around, and you had to put people down. Always on the tape, 'cause you think it's a rattlesnake. If you get put down, I wonder what it takes just to put you down. Oh, Mr. Rattlesnake, always on the tape. What does it take to put you down? To put you down? What does it take to put you down? Because you always on the tape, always hustling, make no mistake, always causing trouble with somebody else. Always causing trouble with someone else. What does it take, Mr. Rattlesnake, to put you down? So that stuff was an A, you know, the one chord thing, and a little bit of stuff in the G. That was something called based on something called the Check Your Chamber, and I think I did a video on that. That Dwayne Burnside and I wrote that. And when I get my playing more together, I'll do that song again. And then that other stuff, you know, in E. But here is something for just a few verses of maybe just something you can practice too. If I can remember how to do it. I can't even remember how to do a shovel. Let's see. It's dark here too, though. It's my excuse. Wait. If I'm gonna do a shuffle, I must have a vape before I do a shuffle. It's a real simple thing, and I did this song. I love it. John Brim song. Got Me Where You Want Me, and but you know what? I don't want to sing anything. I'll do that some other time. I just want to give you guys 4 or 5 verses to play to, and I should say, I guess I'll say in the title, the music stuff is at the end, so if anybody just wants to skip through, and so here we are in E, and it's just a simple, you know, if I can actually do it right. My eyes itching, so I can start all over again. So I'll start with a turnaround this time. That I'm sorry. I'm not used to those bar chords. Try that again. That's what I meant to do. Try that again. Now take it a little softer. Can't forget about dynamics, you know? Alright, so that's with mistakes and all, something to blow harp over. Hopefully the guitar's in tune. Herbie. Oh boy, Herbie. He's got to get his beak trimmed. Too long of a beak. Okay. Nice yakking at you guys. Sure wish it was a two-way deal. Maybe it will be. I can do a live thing sometime. Yeah. I think that you all are. I thank you once again for your support. And yes, I'm a little giddy because it's been not much sleep, and this goat's alive. Well, she still better be. I'm sure she is. And so happy about that. So, wherever y'all are in the world, whatever time it is, morning, night, day, I wish y'all the best, okay? Have a great week, and I'll be up with y'all later on. So long.